Hello all, welcome to the new Simply Put series by Kalam IAS Academy. This is Priyanka Mahapatra, faculty at Kalam IAS. So today we are going to have a discussion on the newspaper dated 13th December 2023. So the text and the context section of the Hindu newspaper had a very important article about the extreme rainfall corridor. This we are going to discuss. Other articles were not important, so we are not going to discuss them. Again, the explain section of the Indian Express newspaper had important articles about the kidney transplants in India and about the Pompe disease and about the case of sugar, food versus fuel. So these are the important articles today we are going to discuss, that is displayed on your screen. So the first article is about the rainfall corridor. So this is in context of the extreme weather events that we are experiencing nowadays, and the weather forecast models, they are trying to improvise on their forecast, right? And therefore a new study has found out that the extreme weather events or the extreme rainfall is very much restricted to a narrow corridor in India, where the rainfall is very simultaneous, very synchronized. So where is this corridor located? This is in central India, where it is experiencing intense wet spells over a large scale, particularly in the parts of West Bengal and Odisha to the parts of Gujarat and Rajasthan. And to your surprise, this narrow corridor has remained unchanged over a large period of time, that is from 1901 to 2019. So now it has been proven that this corridor experiences heavy rainfall. And what are the reasons for it? Because of the range of mountains there over the western coast, eastern coast, over the central India, and there is an influence of both the seas from both the sides, that is the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal. They combine to produce some dynamic conditions for the generation of extreme rainfall events, right? So as I told that these findings are in the context of improvising the weather forecast models. So now presently the monsoon forecast, they rely heavily on relation with the El Nino and La Nina phenomena, which is true in 60% of the time. And rest of the time the traditional statistical methods, they tend to miss the complex relations between the multiple nodes of rainfall centers. So these are the challenges we are facing with the present forecast models. So instead of going anywhere else, we can actually focus on the corridor being discussed over here in order to improvise our forecast, in order to reduce the negative impact of rainfall, in order to reduce the loss of life, property, agriculture, and consequent negative impacts on the country's economy, right? So rather than going for increasing the model resolution, rather than going for computational cost, which are not at all necessary, we can actually focus on this corridor now in order to in order to improve our weather forecast models, right? So this narrow corridor is a good news again for any potential improvement in the process of understanding the weather events or making any predictions, right? So this was all about this article. So the second article is about the food versus fuel. What is happening with Centre's ethanol blending scheme? So recently what has happened, the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution, it has directed all mills and distilleries not to use sugarcane or any form of sugarcane for making any ethanol. It has banned the mills and distilleries to use sugarcane for making ethanol. Why is that? Because we are facing shortage in the sugarcane production. The National Federation of Cooperative Sugar Factories, it has estimated this year's output to be low compared to the last year's. So what is the reason behind it? Because the states like Maharashtra and Karnataka, those who are one of the major producers of sugarcane, they have faced sharper decline in the production. What is the reason behind it? Because of the low rainfall and the low reservoir water levels in the major cane growing areas, right? So the response of the government has been very straightforward. It has banned the production of ethanol by the use of sugarcane. Again, it has also banned sugar exports. Therefore, it has augmented the domestic availability of sugar in India. So coming to the response of the government in such a crisis situation, or when we are facing any shortage of food grains, government has always prioritized domestic supply over the exports, right? So in order to augment the domestic availability of any crop, it has always banned the export of that particular crop. Again, it has always prioritized the consumers over producers. Again, it has prioritized also the food over the fuel. In this case, there is a debate always that whether sugarcane can be diverted for fuel purpose when it is a food crop. So government's response in this regard is very straightforward. It has now encouraged to go for alternate feedstocks other than sugarcane. That is why earlier 100% of the ethanol was from sugarcane based feedstocks. Now it is just 76% in 2022-23. Thus, the ethanol blended petrol program no longer relies on the single feedstock. It has gone for alternate feedstocks such as damaged grains, maize. In fact, it has raised the procurement price of ethanol produced from damaged grain and maize. The mills will be getting more price for the ethanol produced when it is being manufactured or produced from damaged grains. In fact, the ethanol yields from the grains are higher. So why not promote? Right? And again, coming to the program, ethanol blended petrol program, the average blending of ethanol with petrol has risen. We have encouraged the more blending of ethanol with petrol. Why? Because we need to reduce the import cost of petrol. In fact, the average blending has risen from 1.6% in 2013-14 to 11.8% in 2022-23. So these are points you need to remember, you need to internalize from the prelims point of view, and some facts also you can quote it in your mains examination, right? So this was all about this topic's discussion. Let's now come to the third topic about the kidneys transplants in India, the law about it, the demand and the alleged rackets. So why this is in news? Because the government now has ordered a probe into the findings of a newspaper alleging that the poor Myanmarese villagers, they are being lured into giving their kidneys to rich patients in that country, and through the involvement of Delhi's Apollo Hospital. Right? So this was in news. So let's look into the India's transplant law. So what is the law of India allowing or not allowing? So the organ donations or transplant in exchange for money is banned in India. Any transplant happening in exchange for money is completely not allowed in India. So why this is done? In order to protect the vulnerable section, in order to protect the poor donors. So they can be easily lured for money. So in order to avoid that exploitation, we have completely banned the organ transplant or donation in exchange for money. Right? So the act now allows only for living donations from close relatives. If any living donations are happening, that can happen from close relatives only. And for that matter, altruistic donations from distant relatives, in-laws, or long-time friends can also happen, but we need to give proof. We need to show photographs that we are closely associated with the patient from very long time, right? And there will be additional scrutiny to ensure that there is no financial exchange in the process, right? So right now we can go for the close relatives, the donations from close relatives, or from any of our distant relatives after additional scrutiny. So what is happening that the alleged rackets, they're relying on the forged documents in order to establish the relationship between the donor and recipient. So there is a need for additional scrutiny, tight scrutiny, proper scrutiny in order to ensure that there is no finance involved, right? Then coming to the organ transplantation, among all the organs, kidney is the most targeted. Why? There are three reasons. Because kidney transplantation, they pose the least risk to the donor, right? And it is in huge demand. Around 2 lakh Indians, they reach end stage kidney failure every year. That is why we are going for 12,000 kidney transplants taking place every year in our country. Second is that kidney transplantation is the cheapest and most accessible. It costs around 5 lakh rupees. Other transplantations are much more than that. Third is that the kidney as an organ, it can survive the longest outside the body. That is for 24 to 36 hours compared to other organs where lungs can only survive outside the body for 4 to 6 hours, and in case of liver it is 12 hours, 8 to 12 hours. So for these three reasons, kidney is the most targeted organ for transplantation. So what is the way out? What is the way out in a situation where India's law is not allowing for any organ donation and transplant in exchange for money? How do we do that? So firstly, the ideal situation is that we need to reduce the number of people who require organ transplants altogether. And the second situation is that we need to promote the deceased donations because they are one of the ideal candidates for organ donation. A person who has died and his organs will be donated, nothing like it, right? So in case of India, it is only 16% of the total transplants use the deceased organ. So we need to promote more. For that reason, government has rolled out an Aadhaar linked registry of donors where their complete family members will be assured that see, the person wished to donate if he died. It's a kind of will or registry in front of government that if the person dies, his organs will be donated, right? So this was all about this topic's discussion. Then we come to the fourth topic about the Pompe disease. This is important from your science and technology, and this is important from your prelims point of view. So why this is in news? Because Nidhi Shirol, who is told as the India's first Pompe disease patient, she passed away last month at the age of 24 years after battling the disease. And she spent the last 6 years in semi-comatose state. So what is this disease about? It is about the deficiency of an enzyme which is very crucial to break down your glycogen into glucose. Right? So here there is a deficiency of glucose in the body where the glycogen cannot be broken down into glucose in our body. It is related to the enzyme acid alpha glucosidase. Therefore, it is called as glycogen storage disease type 2, otherwise known as glycogen storage disease type 2. It's a rare genetic disorder. So you should be knowing the enzyme name, the deficiency of which causes this disease, the other name of the disease, and the particular thing that how it is a deficiency where there is no breaking down of glycogen into glucose. And what is the frequency? It is found in 1 in 40,000 to 1 in 3 lakh births, right? And there is an experience of muscle weakness, motor skill delay. When there are no glucose in the body, obviously you can relate it to the impact, the effects. That is muscle weakness, you will be feeling motor skill delay, degenerative impact on the bones, respiratory complications, and hypotropic cardiomyopathy. That is about the thickening of the heart walls. So these things you must be remembering from the prelims point of view. Then there is no cure for this disease. Currently there is no cure for this disease. Again, there are some treatment options just to manage the symptoms and improve the quality of the life of the patient. There is a therapy also available where it is just about infusing the missing enzyme in the body to stop or to control the glycogen buildup, because here glycogen is not getting converted to glucose. So there will be buildup of glycogen in the body. So in order to avoid that, we have a therapy that is enzyme replacement therapy. Right? So this was all about this topic you should be knowing from your prelims point of view. So this is end of today's discussion. Thank you so much.